Good Tuesday morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing out in the world? Margaret, I see you switched up your look here.
I'm having a bit of a challenge because I know my name says Letta. That's my nickname. So I'm like, they got to know who I am. And I don't know how to change my pictures. I apologize for that greatness. A bit much, I get it.
You got a new haircut there going on? Seems a little shorter.
Oh, yeah.
All right, good for you. Good for you. Who's got some positivity going on? Somebody put a deal together yesterday or just have something personally going just right? What's going on? What's good? Martin.
So yesterday I got a phone call from somebody who I guess they saw I sold some land out in Beckett, and we're talking about it, and he's looking for land by the water. And come home last night, and what happens? We got 3 acres that came out in Beckett for a good price, and I called him this morning, and he's like, all right, let me send you over off my info, and hopefully we'll be putting an offering on it.
Just like that. Doesn't the world just stir up?
That's all.
I love it. Good for you. Jen, what do you got?
Yeah, so I had a lead come in, and I couldn't reach him after he, it was assigned to me. So I called him, I emailed him, I texted him, nothing. So I called him again. This was all yesterday. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, hi, this is Jen, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he went to an open house this past weekend, and he just wants an agent to help him put the offer in. So that's all I'm doing.
All right.
As of right now.
All right. Now, this is a unique situation, writing an offer when you don't know the client and you potentially don't know the house, right? So did you go ahead and schedule yourself a showing for the house so you could just get a feel for it, or how are you handling that piece?
So I'm talking with the agent today because he called me last night and finally said, I just want to put an offer in. And I talked with him about putting an offer in different, terms, found out about his pre-approval. So now today I'll go over stuff with the agent this morning, and because I have to find everything out, really. It all happened last minute.
Yeah, my advice, I would schedule a showing, Jen, if you feel like you've got the time, and just pop over to this house. It's difficult to negotiate on something that you haven't personally seen, and I'd hate for something to come up, or he's like, hey, why didn't you tell me about this or that? So yeah, if you could pop over, run through it, just take a peek like you look at a property normally. I think that's how I'd handle this one. I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions in a situation, or if you've been in a situation like this, what other things you might consider. Okay. Yeah, just for me personally, I've had this happen a couple of times, and I just shot over there just so I know what I'm working with. Yeah, keep us posted. Hopefully you put that one together. Jeff and Linda, what did you guys have?
Hey, good morning. Just another win for expired and persistence. We had a client that we pulled off the expireds, and it's been a couple months coming, but the initial conversations all went very well. The guy had just pulled his house came off the market. He discussed a little bit about his agent, kind of said that he didn't really feel that they put all this effort into it. And this is they started out at 1.5 and went to 1.2 million. And he said they were 6 months and they didn't get it done. Didn't like how they really did their feedback. They sourced out their some of the business that they did. And but he was very, very, very talkative, very nice in the conversation that we had. You felt like there was a genuine connection. He went home for the summer and then said he was coming back. Well, he just arrived this past week, and said he'd get in touch with us when he got in town. He did. He contacted us yesterday and said, hey, I want to take you guys out to dinner. And so it was a win just to be able to get there in for this conversation. And, again, through the conversation that we've had, we feel real good about this. So we're going out to dinner with him tomorrow night. We'll see how it turns out. Nice.
On him? Did you say he's taking you out to dinner?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some days are better than others, right?
see how that one goes. Definitely play that out. Might be a situation where you're going to need to pick up the tab on that one.
Oh, we're 100% prepared to do that. Absolutely. But he's got a $1.2 million home that was completely vacant that he bought as an investment, a brand new home. And so we're heading to Nokomis today to tour that community, homes in that community, surrounding communities, so that when we get together with him, because we're going to be sitting with him for quite a while, we'll have a lot to say about what's happening in the community, and do as much research as possible so that we can be completely on top of this.
Yeah, I think that's just a good point. I think too many agents, I think maybe they pull some comps and then they go in for a listing appointment. And when you're working outside of like your primary market, you really need to know, some landmarks, definitely the data, last 6 months of data, kind of what's the market doing? Is it turning? Is it slow? There's something called an absorption rate, which is how fast are properties coming on the market and then moving. Where an average market is probably about 6 months. So you need to know, hey, what's the absorption rate in this market? Are things moving a little bit quicker? Because even within, a county, you may have certain markets, certain towns that are going to move a little bit quicker. So just be aware of that stuff. Do your research. So it sounds like you guys are on top of it. Another thing that I was hearing as you guys are describing it was understanding what he didn't like about the previous agent. We really want to ask as many questions we can about that previous experience. If you're ever going for an expired, for somebody that, even if it wasn't a super negative experience for them, and it's not just what they didn't like, what did they like? Because there could be a few things that agent did do really well that you're going to want to make sure you continue to do. Hey, we did really like the fact that every Thursday he touched base with us and gave us an update. We didn't love the fact that he never was able to move the property, right? So it's not just about what went wrong. So we definitely want to ask a lot of questions, but there could be just ask a simple question. Hey, was there anything that you thought the agent did do really well? And then just make those notes and make sure that you continue to do that. And then obviously highlighting, hey, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. Hey, that's not how we're going to do it here. We're going to make sure that we fix that. So I don't think you could ask too many questions.
Right, I love that, and that's the beauty of having had someone go before you. Don't make the mistakes that stand out in the seller's mind, and definitely keep doing the things that he did like. So you have a wealth of information for you, so that you can be more successful the second time around. We did look at the video tour that the gal did, the previous listing agent. She did a lovely video presentation, but the problem is that this is an almost 3,000 square foot home, and it was completely empty, and it just looks like you're in an empty store. And I'm really going to encourage him to have proper formal staging, because people are just not that visual. And as I was looking at it, it's a beautiful home, but I couldn't connect to the property at all because it's just big and empty. And I think that's going to be a really big critical component of him getting this thing listed and sold in a timely fashion.
Awesome. Great observation. I will say, I've done a lot of this expired FSBO work, and on the expireds, another strategy, if there's something out there that you feel is like right in your wheelhouse, but for whatever reason, you can't get a hold of that seller. So it's something that's right in your backyard. It's a listing you'd love to have. It's a listing you feel like you can move, but you can't get the number. You've gone door knocking and we're getting no answer. A strategy that I've used with some success is to call the previous listing agent. Hey, Linda, I see that you previously listed this property. Just curious if you're going to be bringing it back to the market or not. They'll give you a little bit of a story. Oh no, this, that, the other. Hey, if you're willing to share some information, or, maybe give me some of the hot button pieces, I'd be willing to pay you a referral fee for helping me get this listing, and maybe I can move it and we both get a little something out of this.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So obviously if you're in, there's no reason to pay a referral fee to the previous agent. But if it's just something that you feel like, hey, I can get this listing if I could just get in front of this person, and going in with a few nuggets, knowing what the hot button items are, right? Hey, the previous listing agent might tell you, look, Like I told him it needs to be at 300 and he's just unrealistic. So we started at 350. I got him to 340, but I know we're $40,000 off. It's literally just price, in my opinion. Right. Or you might get some other information, of some, I don't know, family stuff that's going on, or, hey, you know what? I think it was just tough timing. I think whoever gets it next is going to move it for this, that, the other reason. You just never know what's going to come out of that conversation. So it wouldn't be my first strategy, but it's definitely a strategy I've used with some success. Who else? Anybody got something else that you just want to throw out on the table? Experience, share something going on in a deal? What do we got? I'll throw a situation out there. I have an agent coming to me with a opportunity for a commercial deal. And I kind of wanted to kind of go through the positives or pros and cons, I guess, of doing commercial business. I thought it'd be a good topic for this call, and why at our brokerage, we don't tend to focus on this thing. So on commercial, that is. So first of all, I just want to talk about like some categories of commercial, right? When we're doing, typically 1 to 4 unit residential multifamily, if you were looking at like a 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even unit building, that would be considered commercial, but it wouldn't be something that I would say is out of the wheelhouse of what a residential agent can handle. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff at the inspections, a lot of the same landlord tenant stuff. When you start to get over 8 units, now a lot of times you have different heating systems and cooling systems. You have different plumbing systems. You have different maybe roof configurations, roof materials. You start to see rubber and membrane roofing. You start to need different home inspectors. SIS, who we use pretty heavily, does do commercial, but most residential home inspectors aren't going to touch commercial buildings. So as you start to get into these larger buildings, the mechanicals are different, and you need different contractors to help you through the process. There's also just the different types of commercial that's out there. So when we move past residential, this is where I think it can get really tricky for a couple of different reasons, whether it's retail, it's industrial, it's warehouse. These things can get significantly more complicated. A lot of times it is more about, what can basically that property generate than it can about, somebody emotionally getting attached to it. So what are the financials behind this building? The other thing that's pretty difficult is, as residential agents, we really tend to rely on our MLSs for our data, for what's out there. In the commercial world, all the commercial brokers, they don't really share their listings as much. Everything's a little bit more tight-knit, close to the vest. They have a lot of pocket listings. They have a lot of business owners who they want to sell their business, they want to sell their property, but we can't be putting a sign out in front and potentially jeopardize, their business that they've worked so hard to build. So a lot of the stuff isn't necessarily out in the open. And so it's not necessarily that the deals can be as difficult to structure, but it's, if you were helping a buyer, you're not even really going to know what's actually for sale. Right? The only way that you're going to know that is to be in with the network of other commercial brokers, to constantly be doing deals with those commercial brokers, to get them to open up to you about what they do have. Hey, you know what? I don't have this listed, but I know one of my guys has this piece of property. It's up in Pittsfield. I think it could be great for what your client's looking for. Let's see if we can put something together. So, my fear a lot of times when we're trying to do commercial is that we're not in the best position to help our buyer because we don't have access to the inventory. And when I tried to, because I started to have this, I started to gain a lot of business relationships, and I would start to try and do some commercial deals myself. When I would call a commercial broker, I wouldn't get the time of day. I wouldn't get a call back, right? Oh, no, we don't have anything. We don't deal with residential agents. It won't even pay a referral fee for you to send a commercial client over to us. And it became really, really frustrating. And I just realized how closed of a community it was. And that's when I really started to try and build out our own commercial brokerage, because I felt like I needed somebody on the inside. Because when a commercial client was coming to me, right, I figured I could figure out the details. I could work with an attorney or engineers, or I could get the contractors. But if I didn't know what was actually for sale and I wasn't able to find the properties, I thought I was letting my clients down. So that piece on commercial can become very, very difficult. The offer process is different, where you're doing letters of intent oftentimes. So that can get a little bit tricky. And it's just, the commercial brokers just don't play nice with the residential agents. They realize if they're going to do a deal with you, they're probably going to end up doing most of the deal. They're not going to get paid for both sides. Unfortunately, I think they will basically not be collaborative and make your life not easy. And so, after years of just trying to kind of break through, that's when I decided, you know what, I'm beating a dead horse here, and we're going to have to approach this a different way. So does anybody have any questions around the commercial side? Kind of the same thing happens with trying to take a commercial listing, right? When we don't have those relationships, right? The commercial brokers that have buyers, that have investors, they're not looking on the MLS for listings. So we're taking a commercial listing, we're putting a sign out there, we're putting in the MLS and thinking it's going to move like a residential property. That's not how it works. It's more of a network of calling those commercial brokers. Hey, I've got this. Do you have any clients? Right? And when you're a resi agent, it's just not the same. So is that making sense? Does anybody have any questions? I hate turning down business. I hate turning down relationships. It's just that I've never felt that I could help the client the way that they needed to be helped. Go ahead, Chester.
So I have a client who they're kind of looking for a couple of different things, but one of them being residential units up to 6 units. I think that is kind of her max, but I think it's more based on the budget. That's going to kind of limit her around that place. So if I find anything over 4, what do I do for anything higher than that? Am I just referring her to another agent, just trying to?
No, so that's kind of how I started. I think you can absolutely go handle that deal. 6 units, 8 units. It's going to be different financing, right? So you're going to need commercial financing on it. Inspections are going to be pretty much the same as a 2, 3, or a 4. It's just a few more units. Probably the mechanicals are similar. You might even have, on a 6 unit, you might still have separate utilities for all units and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you can still handle it. I think you can still do it the normal way.
But as far as finding those properties, do you think like I'm going to be a little bit more limited in that regard?
Yeah, you might be missing some for sure. A lot of times property managers, if you're looking in a specific county, trying to call some of the property managers, a lot of times those people know, hey, I manage these, 20 buildings. This one's 6 and 8. I know this guy be willing to sell. So property managers are a good place to start, because I definitely don't think, all your 6, 8, 10, 12 unit buildings are listed in the MLS.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Who else has got questions on the commercial side of things? And it's tempting, guys. I mean, these commercial deals can be millions of dollars, and you're looking at the dollar signs and you think you can figure out a way to get through it. I've just found, stay in our lane, do our resi deals, refer that stuff out. Luckily here in Madison, Connecticut, we do have a partner that we can do a referral with, and they are willing to compensate. But most commercial brokerages, I don't have the relationship down in Florida. It's going to be difficult to get a referral fee out of a commercial broker. Keely.
Yeah, so I had a couple clients that I referred to. I think her name is Zaisha at SR. Should I be? I didn't even ask for a referral fee or anything. Obviously, like you said, it's not my wheelhouse, so I stay in my lane. So I was just like, here, should I be asking for a referral from her?
Yeah, absolutely. The understanding with SR Commercial is that we're going to get a referral fee. If you're going to send it over, I would have just, put something in a text, put something in an email. I don't know that we need a formal referral agreement,
Okay.
but something just memorializing, hey, I'm referring this client over to you should suffice.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And full disclosure for Rovi agents, I have divested my interest from SR Commercial. It is Jeremy's full company now. I no longer have an ownership interest in SR. So I'm really trying to just be laser focused on our residential brokerage. And it was, I think, just a little bit of a distraction that I just didn't feel. It was a good run. He's doing a great job over there. And, I would still recommend highly that the referrals for Mass and Connecticut can go through SR. Anybody else on the commercial side of things? Okay. All right. What else? Somebody needs some help on a deal that they got going on? Something weird's got to be going on that we can share and learn from.
So I had a buyer. She put in the offer in $10,000 below the asking price, and she was a cash offer. The seller chose to go with someone else, and then a few days later, the agent came back and said, they want to go with her offer, but she has to come up, closer to the selling price. When I went back, this woman had her heels dug in. She's not changing, she's staying at the price she offered. So a week and a half goes by, and the agent calls me again and says the seller wants to go with a sure deal. The buyer said to me, well, she had the opportunity. Nope, I'm not going backwards. So I'm like, is this for real? I mean, I'm like, she's getting a good deal. And so I'm feeling like she's really not committed to buying something.
I just want to make sure I understand clearly. I'm just going to throw some random numbers out there. Let's say the property's listed for 400,000. You offered 10 less, 390. You get turned down. They go with another offer, and a week later they're coming back to you saying, "Hey, that deal fell apart. If you'll come to 400, we'll do this deal." Your buyer says no, and then a week later they say, "All right, hey, we'll take the 390," and now your buyer's saying, "Nope, I'm not even doing 390." Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the reality. It's actually pretty good negotiating on this buyer. They may still have interest, but this is a greedy seller, right? And this is what happens in when it starts to become more of a buyer's market, where sellers are coming back to you, right? Your offer was on the table, in a strategy that when it becomes such a buyer's market that you're going to use is say, "Hey, look, my offer's 300,000. You've got until Sunday to accept it. If we don't have an offer by Sunday, who's to say that it won't be 290 a week later, or 275, or right? Like, that you're the only offer on the table. You guys have got the leverage. So I don't necessarily know that it could be that it's a buyer that has no interest or is wishy-washy, but also it's a buyer that goes, I got the leverage. They're coming back to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But she's just like, they should have taken my offer the first time around. I'm not going back. I don't care what, they come back at me.
Yeah. I mean, again, just using a random number, I say, "Hey, so you're telling me even if I could get this for you for 375, you don't want this property?"
That's correct.
But did you give her that number? Hey, even if I could get it for, let's say, 10,000 less than her last offer?
Oh, no, I didn't do that.
I would just do that. So, hey, Sue, I just want to be clear. Your last offer was at 290. They're now saying they'll do the deal at 290, and you're telling me you don't want to do it. I get it. I feel like you feel like you've got the cards. Let me ask you a question. If I could get the deal done at 280, would you want to move forward? Just to see, is there any interest? And then if she says no, hey, what number, Sue, would you want to move forward? If I could get it done at 270, would you move forward? And if she just says, hey, look, Sue, even if you could get it at 250, I don't want to move forward, then she doesn't want to move forward. But I would keep throwing a number out there, until we and see what's going on. And then I'm going to go back to the listing agent and say, hey, look, here's the deal. My buyer's not stupid. We know we're the only offer on the table. And we know you're coming back to us. We know we've got the leverage. She'll do the deal at 270. 270 today, we've got ourselves a deal.
Okay.
So that's how I'd be feeling that out. Does anybody else want to just add some perspective or any thoughts on this one? Oh, you need to figure out, does she actually want to move forward on this property? You know, because if you can get a better deal for her than she even had on the table and she still says no, right? And you keep going lower and then she doesn't want the property. But if there's a number there, and then you got to go back to that listing agent and see if we can structure a deal.
All right. Sounds good.
Good share. Yep, good share. Who else has got something? I'll just throw up something came across my desk with regards to leased items, right? We definitely need to be careful about leased items. We need to know, the typical things that can be leased that can rear their ugly head if you thought that the seller owned it and all of a sudden we're finding this out either post-closing or a couple of days before closing. Obviously solar panels, propane tanks oftentimes are leased. Hot water heaters can be leased. I think those are your common things. I don't know, somebody shout out if there's something else that could be leased that I'm missing. But I think propane, hot water, solar panel, just make sure that these sellers own these things and that your buyer's not picking up a lease post-closing. Okay. So
One more thing. So if you have a buyer and they want to put an offer on a property, and you speak to the agent, see how many offers are on the table, and she says 6, and then your buyer goes, "Oh, forget it, I don't want to be in a bidding war." My response to that with the buyer, I'm like, you have nothing to lose by putting an offer in. Why don't we just go forward?
Yeah, my go-to line in that scenario is, we're not in a bidding war, right? We're putting our offer in at a number that we feel comfortable with. I don't want you to sue. I don't even want you to think about what these other offers might even be. We're going to put our offer in, the strongest offer that we can, that you feel comfortable, right? That if you put your offer in and you put your head on the pillow tonight and we wake up in the morning and we find out we didn't get it, you're not disappointed that you didn't go $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 more. There's no bidding war, right? That was always my conversation, my go-to. I could usually get them to put the offer in. Anybody else have some language that they like to use in that scenario? But that's really the way I want the buyer to think about it. We're not in a bidding war. We're in a situation where we're just going to make the best offer for us with the terms that we like to hopefully get the property. If we get it, great. If we wake up in the morning and we didn't get it and we know we put our best foot forward, great. Right. And that was always my line when a buyer would say, well, what do you think I should offer? Right. Because that always puts us in a difficult position. And I still remember this to this day. The first property I ever bought, I don't know, I was in my early 20s. I had an agent. It was a little bit of a seller's market. And I'm looking to buy a condo. And there's multiple offers on the table. And so I said to her, well, what do I got to offer to get it? And she's like, I don't know. I was like, well, what do you mean? That's why I've got an agent. You can't tell me what's it going to take. Just tell me what it's going to take. I want this condo. I'll get it. Right. Not just being naive. I didn't understand how the process worked. And she really didn't know what it was going to take, obviously, as we know. Right. And so the language that I always use is, hey, look, we don't know what it's going to take. I can tell you what the comps are. Right. So I pulled the comps for you. I think this is like a $300,000 condo. At the end of the day, though, right, you need to be able to put your head on that pillow, knowing that you put your best foot forward. And if you put it for 300 and you found out it went for 301, would you be disappointed? Yeah, I would. Well, then we got to go higher than 301. Let me if it was 305 that we found out that this sold for, would you be disappointed? Yeah, I would have paid 305. Then we got to be at least at 3. And I would just keep playing that game until they go 310. Somebody else can have it. Right. And so that's how I kind of would hash that one out when they say, what do you think I should offer? Anybody else want to throw a strategy out there? That's a difficult conversation. How do you guys handle that?
bring the lender in too and have them run numbers about like the difference between another 5 or 10 grand. And as long as the listing agent is accepting an escalation clause, then definitely go that way so they know they're not bidding against themselves.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, right? So a lot of times the buyer has no idea that $5,000 more on their offer price is going to be $20 a month. I don't know if that's the right now, but you guys get what I'm saying. Put the numbers out there. Make sure they understand, hey, to go to 310, your monthly payment is only going to be X. They really got to know what that number is. Oh my God, it's only $20 more. So for $40 more, I can go to 320. Yep.
I've been sharing data too. Like when buyers ask me, well, how far over asking should I go? Then I just say, hey, let me send you some data on how far over asking homes like this have sold last month. And my MLS will give me a percentage. It'll say last month in this zip code, home sold for 4% over asking. And we'll calculate it that way. And I'll ask them, hey, if you want to be competitive, do you want to offer at least this?
Yeah, I love that, Alyssa. And I would take it one step further. I wouldn't use averages. I would find other similar properties in that town, similar condos. Hey, here's one that was listed at 300. It sold for 310. Here's a condo that was listed at 350. It went for 375. Actually send them the listings of like similar stuff so that they can see, right? Particular properties. Hey, that's just like yours. And last month that closed for $25,000 over. Right. So it could go for $25,000 over. I don't know. Right. What we need to figure out is what is this property worth to you? Because what it's worth to one buyer is completely different from what it's worth to another buyer. We just need to figure out what it's worth to you. The comps are going to get us in the ballpark. Now, what's it worth to you? Right. And what I mean by that is if you've got a buyer that's been looking for 6 months and they've lost, out on 10 properties, right? Or they need something specific. They need that in-law in this town, and there's just never been an in-law in this town, and all of a sudden there it is. They might be willing to overpay because to them it's worth a little bit more, right? So the comps get us in the ballpark. The person's unique buying position gets us to what it's worth to them. Any other questions on this piece? Good. This was a great session today. A lot of great shares, a lot of good ideas. Appreciate you guys. Go have yourselves a kick-ass Tuesday, and we will do it again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good one.